Can Dehya extinguish a torch? Well, according to lore, a mercenary with long black and golden hair once put out campfires and won an entire battle. However, we know that in terms of gameplay, yeah. Now, we can explain the lore in two ways. 1. The mercenary is someone else. 2. Dehya's lore is the product you see on Wish, and her gameplay is what you actually get. Jokes aside, the idea of achieving the impossible intrigued me, and I decided to explore this problem further. To understand the situation a little better, there are 5 elements which can extinguish a fire. Anemo, Geo, and Electro consume the Pyro aura by respective reactions, and Cryo and Hydro are obvious. Pyro and Dendro can't extinguish a fire because Pyro lights torches, and Dendro only increases burn damage. Armed with this knowledge, I traveled to Stormtear's lair and tried applying Electro on myself, then running into a torch. I thought that proccing Overload would consume the Pyro on the torch, but it didn't work. I really shouldn't have expected this to work because it doesn't work for Cryo or Hydro either. Then, I had the brilliant idea of using the weather controller in Apam Woods. Basically, all I have to do is light the stove, change the weather to rainy, and voila! Dehya has put out the fire. Now, this action isn't unique to Dehya, but it is a way she can extinguish a fire. Unfortunately, this solution is problematic. In terms of lore, I don't think Dehya summoning rain to extinguish torches is very believable, especially in the desert.
It does actually rain in the desert on occasion.
Furthermore, it doesn't work in co-op, which means I can't go into someone's world and absolutely wow their socks off. Anyway, when I tried it in co-op, the host mentioned that I could use Candace's burst to get Hydro infusion. But to me that seemed a little cheesy and not actually Dehya extinguishing the fire because the infusion came from Candace. In fact, if I wanted to use this strategy, I could also use Chongyun, with the caveat that it would be more noticeable. Next, I looked into weapons. I thought Snow Tomb Star Silver would work because it summons an icicle, but I read on the wiki that the icicle deals physical damage, not cryo damage. I also looked into other claymores like the fish, and even weapons of other types, such as the Viridescent Hunt and Aquila Favonia, but they all deal physical damage with their passives. Basically, Hoyoverse has done a good job of making sure that none of their weapons apply any elements because that would cause some annoyances or overpowered situations in combat. But what about gadgets? Well, the Windcatcher gadget exists, but it doesn't apply Anemo. And looking on the wiki, there's no other gadget that seems like it would apply an element. So, if I couldn't use any equipment to put out a fire, the only thing left for me was to manipulate the environment, like I did with the weather controller. I started off by revisiting Dragonspine to see if there were any cryo barrels conveniently located near torches. There weren't any. I also tried getting cryo hilly turtles and grenadiers to apply cryo to torches, but that didn't work. Not that it would have mattered, because then it wouldn't be Dehya doing the extinguishing. While I was in Dragonspine, I did find out that the reverse is possible, using a Hydro character to light a torch. Basically, you just have to grab a Scarlet Quartz and attack a torch. After that, I hopped over to Inazuma to try using Wave Rider cannons, but no luck. I also tried all 3 electro cannons, but frustratingly, they made it so that the blast radius of the shots never touched a torch or campfire. I went down to Enkanomiya briefly to see if there were any environmental mechanics there, but decided that I would use that as a last resort because I haven't explored there at all. At one point, I even resorted to every Genshin player's worst nightmare to find a solution: reading. I looked through all the in-game tutorials to see if there were any game mechanics that I forgot about that could potentially apply an element that wasn't Pyro or Dendro, but I didn't find any. I then remembered that there was a directional light shooting mechanism in the underground chasm, but I didn't find any examples quickly and gave up on that idea because there was no way that would apply an element. Finally, I hit up the overworld chasm because I remembered the vibrating stone pillars which applied Geo. All I would have to do is find a torch that was close enough to these pillars and it would work. In the meantime, I also stumbled upon this cannon while wandering about, but there was no torch to be seen in the cannon's attack field. But eventually, I stumbled upon the Vermilion Domain and finally found what I was looking for. a torch close enough to one of the geopillars. We're not done here, however, because we need to see it work in co-op mode. Remember, I want to shock and awe my friends with my newfound impossible trick.
And there we go, it's doable in co-op. This person is saying that Dehya is good.
So there we have it. The lore is actually factual for once for Dehya. Even though there are no geopillars in the entirety of Sumeru with which she could pull this off with, I'm going to consider this a win because, well, Dehya really needs one. And with any luck, and maybe a bit of magic, we'll be seeing more Dehya wins in the future with the release of Fontaine. That might just be copium though.